People called it Heaven's Arms Orphanage, but there was nothing heavenly about it. Behind the gates, children crowded the rooms. Some small, some grown, many with faces that had long forgotten how to smile. Some had lost both parents, some were abandoned at the gate, and others were taken off the streets when no one was watching. They all answered to one woman, Madame Lau. By day, Madame Lau looked like a saint. Her wrapper tied neatly, she smiled at visitors with teeth as white as stones. Sometimes she stirred a pot of rice in the yard so the smell drifted into the street, drawing curious eyes. When people entered, she would touch a child's head gently and say, "These are my children. I love them. Help me care for them." Visitors nodded, moved by her words. Some left money, others brought food or clothes. Madame Lau would clap softly and whisper, "God bless you." But the children knew the smile was a mask. When night fell, her face hardened, her voice sharpened, and the warmth vanished like smoke in the wind. In her eyes, the girls were not children but tools. She kept the older ones close, watching as their bodies changed. When she decided one was ready, she summoned her to the small back room. "Tonight you will be with someone," she said, her tone cold. It was never outsiders. The boys from the orphanage were forced too. She chose the strongest and commanded, "Go to her room. Do what I say. No questions." It was never a request, always an order. When girls became pregnant, Madame Lau felt no shame, no pity. She waited until the child was born, then took the baby away before the mother could even hold it. Rich couples came quietly, and she handed the infant over in exchange for money. To her, the children were nothing more than vessels. "You are just the house," she told them. "I give them what they want." The girls never saw their babies again, and the boys never knew their children. Sandra was one of them. She had been there since she was 3, after losing both parents suddenly. Now 20, she had grown up behind those walls, eating from the same dented plates, wearing the same worn clothes, and watching pain pass from girl to girl. She had prayed her turn would never come. She had seen it too many times. Girls led into the back room, then months later, their bellies heavy, only to lose their babies the moment they were born. One evening, her prayer was broken. Madame Lau's voice echoed through the corridor. "Sandra, come here." Her heart pounded as she obeyed. "Go to the last room," Madame ordered. Inside, one of the older boys sat on the bed, his eyes downcast, silent. Sandra shook her head, trembling. "Mama, please, I don't want." "Shut up," Madame snapped. "You're old enough. Do as I say." That night, Sandra's fear filled the room. It happened once, but weeks passed with no change. 3 weeks later, Madame sent her again. Same boy, same room, same silence. Still nothing. A month later, it happened again. This time, her body began to change. Her stomach grew slowly, carrying a secret she couldn't hide. She was finally pregnant. Madame locked her indoors, saying coldly, "You will not step out until the baby comes." 9 months later, Sandra gave birth. Before she could even cradle her child, Madame Lau tore the baby away. The very next day, Sandra saw her step into a black car with a wealthy-looking man. When she returned, her bag overflowed with perfumes, clothes, and cash. She had sold the baby. That day, Sandra finally understood the cruel truth. Tea was never love, never family. It was business. And once Madame Lau began, she never stopped. Whenever visitors arrived, the children were forced into torn clothes with holes wide enough for the cold wind to pass through. They were ordered to sit in a row, hands folded on their laps, eyes lowered like wooden dolls. When the guests appeared, sometimes pastors in long robes, sometimes white people with cameras, the children were made to smile faintly, some singing soft songs, their voices trembling like candle flames about to die. "These are my lovely children," Madame Lau would say brightly, stretching her smile wide. "We are one big happy family." Visitors clapped, nodded, some left money, others gave food or gifts. The moment they left, the smiles vanished. Because the children knew what happened to those who tried to run. They never escaped. Her boys would drag them back, beating them until the walls shook with their screams, then locking them inside the black room. The black room was a place of silence and rot. No windows, no light, only damp air pressing against the skin. Rats scratched along the corners. There was no food, no water. Children could spend 3 days inside, some 5, and some never came out at all. No one knew what turned Madame Lau into such a woman. But once, long before the orphanage, she was just a 15-year-old girl with a swelling belly. The boy who had promised love had vanished, leaving nothing but a broken memory. When her parents discovered her secret, their words cut her like broken glass. "You brought shame to this house. Get out," her father thundered. Her mother pointed to the door without meeting her eyes. She left that night, alone, sleeping on the floor of an empty shop, her wrapper too thin for the cold. Hunger gnawed at her stomach. Loneliness wrapped around her like chains. When the pains came, they tore through her like waves crashing against rocks. By nightfall, 2 tiny cries filled the silence. Twins, a boy and a girl. She looked at their fragile faces, then turned away. "You ruined my life," she whispered bitterly. "Because of you, I lost everything." The next morning, she scribbled 2 words on a piece of cardboard. "For sale." She laid it before the babies. A rich man in a shining car stopped, looked at them and said, "I'll take them both. I'll pay you well." Without hesitation, she agreed. The money dropped heavy in her hands. She bought fine clothes, filled her stomach with sweet food, and for the first time in months, she felt something close to power. If I can sell 2 babies and gain wealth, she thought, why should I stop there? That thought burned inside her. She left for the city, using the money to create a place. She painted the walls pink, placed old chairs in bare rooms, and nailed a sign outside, "Heaven's Arms Orphanage." But inside, there was no heaven, only the shadow of her bitterness. In that same town lived Anita, a clever girl of 12 who had lost both parents. She was brought to the orphanage and, like the others, called Madame Lau Mama. But Anita was different. She watched, listened, and held every fragment of truth inside her heart. Years passed. By the time she turned 18, she had seen enough. One night, after Madame Lau had gone out in her glittering dress for the club, Anita whispered to Sunday, a boy a little older than her, "Let's run. If we stay here, we'll disappear like the others." Sunday's eyes widened. "They'll catch us. You know they always do." "I have a plan," Anita said, her voice firm, her lips pressed shut like a sealed box. When the house was quiet, and the air heavy with sleep, Anita slipped into Madame Lau's office. Her hands moved quickly, opening drawers until she found it, a small phone hidden beneath scattered papers. Anita pressed the buttons carefully. One number caught her eye. Auntie Funmi Church. Her mind drifted back to the day Auntie Funmi had visited, smiling warmly, handing out food, patting their heads. Anita had thought then, this one is kind. She dialed the number, and each ring felt endless. Finally, a soft voice answered. "Hello." Her hands trembled. "Auntie, it's me, Anita. Madame Lau is doing terrible things. We're not safe. Please help us." There was silence before the voice returned, gentle but heavy. "My God, my dear child. Don't worry. I'm coming right now." Anita closed her eyes, pressing the phone to her ear as if that voice could shield her from everything lurking beyond the office door. For the first time in years, a fragile seed of hope settled in her heart. But she did not know that the woman she had just called was no savior. She was another shadow, as dark as Madame Lau, if not worse. The following morning, tires rolled softly across the street. A white van pulled up before the red gate. 2 women stepped out. One of them, Auntie Funmi, stretched her arms wide, smiling. "Anita, come. You are safe now." Without thinking, Anita's small feet carried her forward. She looked back once. The other children pressed their faces to the window bars, some clapping softly, their eyes shining with fragile belief that rescue had finally come. The van door shut, the sound fading into the night. By the next morning, Anita's bed was empty. Her blanket folded neatly, her pillow untouched, her toothbrush gone. "Where is Anita?" Sunday's voice cracked the morning silence. His eyes darted from face to face. At the table, Madame Lau peeled an orange slowly. "She ran away," she said flatly, not looking up. But the glint in her eyes told another story. Days turned to weeks. Anita's name faded like a song no one dared to sing. One hot afternoon, Aim Cha was ordered to clean Madame Lau's office. The air smelled of perfume and dust. As he bent to wipe the lower cupboard, the door creaked open. Inside lay a thick brown file stamped with bold letters. AF, special care. His fingers shook as he pulled it free. When he flipped it open, the room seemed to grow colder. Photographs stared back at him. Children's faces, one after another. Beside each, notes. Names, dates, sums of money, destinations. At the top of the first page was Anita. Her shy smile was frozen in the photo. Across it, written in red ink, was one chilling word, retrieved. Mecca's breath hitched. Now he understood. Auntie Funmi was no rescuer. She was the link, the one who found buyers, the one who taught Madame Lau how to cover her tracks, who forged the papers, who moved the children like parcels in the night. She had taken Anita, not to safety, but deeper into the shadows. The day Anita entered the van, she sat in the back, her small hands clasped tight, knees pulled close. The air reeked of fuel and fear. The driver kept staring at her through the mirror, lips twisting into a slow smile. "You should have kept quiet," he muttered. Her heart pounded like a drum in the distance. In the front, Auntie Funmi spoke into her phone. "Yes, we have her. Madam says she's too clever. We're taking her to the others." Anita's fists tightened. She didn't know who the others were, but she knew it could only mean something worse. The road stretched ahead, silent and empty. Then suddenly, the van jerked, shuddered, and stopped. Smoke curled from the engine. The driver cursed under his breath and stepped out to check beneath the bonnet. Anita's eyes scanned the van desperately. Her fingers brushed against something cold beneath the seat, a broken wire hanger. She gripped it, hands trembling. Her mind whispered one thing. Now or never. The van door creaked open. Auntie Funmi leaned inside, reaching for her arm. In one swift motion, Anita drove the jagged end of the hanger deep into her flesh. Auntie Funmi screamed. Clutching her arm in shock, Anita didn't wait. She leapt from the van, her feet striking the hard earth before she vanished into the dark bush. The night wrapped itself around her like a heavy cloth. Branches tore at her skin. Thorns pierced her soles until warm blood streaked her toes. Behind her, voices rang out, harsh and urgent. "Catch her! Don't let her escape!" Fear drove her faster, her small frame darting through the trees like a bird fleeing a hunter. She ran until her throat burned, until the ground itself felt sharp beneath her feet. The shouts behind her thinned, then faded, but she did not stop. Even when silence returned, she kept moving, as if the darkness itself might swallow her whole. By the time dawn broke, Anita was still pushing forward, her body weak but her will unbroken. At last her legs gave way. She stumbled out of the bush into a small village. Her dress hung in tatters, her skin scratched, her feet raw and bleeding. She collapsed before a mud hut. An old woman stepped out with a basket in her hands. Her eyes widened in shock. "Husband, come quickly," she cried. An old man ran forward, kneeling beside Anita. Gently, he lifted her, and together they carried her inside. On a raffia mat they laid her down. The woman fetched water in a calabash while the man poured a little into her mouth, then gave her a spoonful of palm oil. Anita's lips trembled, her voice no stronger than a whisper. "Please help me." Then her eyes closed. Fear gripped the couple. Without hesitation, they wrapped her in cloth and hurried her to the village clinic. For 3 days, Anita hovered between sleep and silence. Then her eyes opened slowly, finding the old woman seated at her side. "My child, you are safe now," she said softly. Anita's throat ached as she spoke. "The orphanage. She is selling us. It is not real." The old woman's gaze met her husband's. They both nodded, no trace of doubt in their faces. The next morning, the villagers took Anita to the small police station. 2 officers listened as she recounted everything, her words steady, each one falling like a stone into still water. The local police contacted the city. By evening, plainclothes officers arrived. No sirens, no noise. Quietly, they surrounded the red gate. Inside, they searched every corner. They uncovered the black room, thick with stench, rats scattering as the lights pierced the dark. Files stacked high revealed names, photographs, dates, amounts, destinations. Locked boxes spilled open, stuffed with money and documents. Even hidden cameras tucked in the children's rooms were found. In her bedroom, Madame Lau still slept, her wig askew, false lashes heavy on her face. An officer shook her awake. She blinked, confused, until she saw the uniforms. Rage flared. You think you're clever? She spat. Children are nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing. But her voice carried no weight. 2 officers cuffed her wrists and led her past the red gate she once ruled. For the first time, silence settled over the house. In court, Madame Lau sat in the dock, stripped of disguise. Her tears fell as she pleaded. I was poor. Rejected. Alone. The judge's voice was steady. Yes, you were hurt. But instead of choosing good, you became the monster that harmed you. You will never touch another child again. The gavel struck. Life imprisonment. From that day, the red gate remained shut. Police removed the children one by one, placing them in homes filled with warmth, food, soft beds, and kind faces that carried no hidden knives. Weeks later, a car door opened in front of one such home. Anita stepped out, her clothes new, her skin healed, her hair neat. The moment the children saw her, they rushed across the yard, arms open wide. Laughter and tears mingled as they embraced her. Anita smiled, her voice soft but certain. I told you we would be free. Years passed. Anita's life blossomed under the care of her foster parents, who loved her as their own. She studied fiercely, her mind sharp as steel. One day, she stood in a black robe, a lawyer before the world. The girl who once ran barefoot through the night was now a woman defending others in court. But the past does not disappear. It waits. One quiet evening, her foster mother sat her down. There is something you must know, she said gently. Anita listened, still as stone. The truth came slowly, like a shadow creeping over the floor. Madame Lau, the woman who had destroyed so many, was her real mother. Years earlier, Anita and her twin brother had been sold to a wealthy man. When he died, they were returned to the orphanage. Her brother had not survived. He was gone just a week after their return. Later, Anita stood at a small grave, wind bending the grass at her feet. She laid her palm against the cold stone. Her voice broke into the quiet. We are free now. And I will fight for other children, so no one suffers as we did. The evening light brushed her face as she turned from the grave. Her steps were steady, carrying both the ache of loss and the fire of purpose. I hope you felt this story deeply. If you did, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, send it to friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe for more African tales like this one. Thank you.